Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's great to see all of you, and I think we still have a few folks coming in for our conversation this afternoon with Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer, and I see she has joined us. Welcome. Welcome. So I'm just going to give it just about another minute and then we'll get started. And so just a few things that I wanted to say before we get started. First of all, to thank you, Councilwoman Sawyer, for taking time out of your day. We really appreciate your being with us and for this time. And I want to thank her Chief of Staff, Joanne Rusha, who's also on the call with us, and she's just been tremendous to work with. And so, and I also spoke with Logan, one of your staff members, so you've got great staff, great to work with.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate everyone joining us today. So yes. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with the community.
Yeah. So I'm Deacon Linda Brown with St. Luke's Episcopal Church. You and Jean Griffiths and I had spoken by phone. Jean is waving at you.
Hi, Jean. It's good to see you.
And then our priest is Reverend Sierra Reyes, and she is waving at you.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Yes, so glad to have you. And I see we still have people joining us. This is a ongoing series that we're having at St. Luke's called Who is My Neighbor? And it is, the purpose of it is just to, you know, St. Luke's, even though we're an old church, been in the Montclair neighborhood for a long time, there's always constant change in our neighborhoods, in the people around us, in our community, and our businesses, and just things are happening. And so what we've been doing is just a series of bringing in guest speakers just to talk to us about what is going on with them and the neighborhood, and just to help us stay connected and be connected with our neighborhood. So the format for our conversation this afternoon is we want to honor the Councilwoman's time as well as everybody else's. And so we want to conclude by 4:30. I have a series of questions that I want to talk to the Councilwoman about, and then we will have a Q&A session toward the end. But as you have questions, please use the chat box. And just type in your chat into the chat box. It's down at the bottom of your screen. Just type that in, and Reverend Sierra and I will scoop those up and have those ready to go for the Councilwoman when we're ready. As we have this conversation, I recommend that you set your video on speaker view. As you notice up in, at least in my computer, there's the upper corner says speaker view, and also has gallery view, which is where you see everybody. And I think just facilitates a conversation if you can see who's talking instead of trying to guess as you're looking at these boxes that constantly rotate. Okay, and then we're just going to ask you to stay muted and enter your question in the chat box, and then we will, toward the end, if we run out of questions and you have one, we'll ask you to raise your hand, and then we will have you unmuted. So, okay, everybody ready to go? All right, well, I'm gonna put us all on speaker view, and so, okay. So, are you ready to start, Councilwoman?
I'm ready.
Okay, great, great. I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, vocation,
Sure.
Yeah, why you wanted to serve on City Council.
Absolutely. Well, so since we're so I always find it really hard to do this online, right? It's hard to talk about yourself and connect with people online. So I brought, if you will let me share my screen, if you hit the little button that is right next to share screen. If
Yes.
you can you do that? And
Yes.
it says, let everyone share screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I should be sharing my screen now, and everyone should be able to see. This is my family. So on Christmas Day, in front of our fireplace in our matching pajamas. So my little dog Oliver, and then I've got 10-year-old twin girls, Lily and Olivia, and then I have also an 11-year-old daughter, Julia. And in case you're doing the math on that, no one does that on purpose. I had 3 kids in 18 months. And then that's my husband, Ed. So my husband is my college sweetheart. We met way back many, many years ago in college. And so that's my family. We love living here in East Denver. I grew up splitting my time between Chicago and Colorado. So I've been in Colorado since 1989 and absolutely love it here. A proud CU graduate. And we left for a few years to kind of go see what else was out there in the world. We lived in Washington, D.C. and went to graduate school there. I have my law degree and also my business degree. So I did the dual JD MBA program at American University. And then my husband was transferred to California for his job. So we lived there for 10 years. And after about 2, we decided to come home, but it was 2008 at the time. So we got stuck there during that, the last economic crash. So it took us another 8 years to get home after that. So we came home in 2016 to raise our family near our friends and family. I live 12 blocks from my mom. I live 2 miles from my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephew. And I live, 6 blocks from my roommate from college. This is home. We love it here. And Denver has always been an amazing place to raise a family. And I see that changing. I see it changing every day. And I am very concerned by that. And that's what drove me to run for city council because, we've got to find a balance here, a thoughtful balance to our city being a place for everyone and our city being a great place to raise a family as well. And it's not that those 2 things are exclusive because they're not. But there has to be a thoughtful balance here because there are a lot of voices out there that want to go just one way or just the other. And neither of those 2 things are acceptable. There's got to be a middle ground here. And that's kind of hard to straddle. That's a hard place to straddle because that means you're never making anyone happy. But that is the goal, I think, in a lot of ways, because that means everyone has given a little bit. And that's probably the best place for us to be when everyone gives a little bit. And we find that place in the center where we've all compromised. That means we're all coming out better in the end. So that's why I ran. That's who I am. And that's my goal of, what I am doing here.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. I love the picture. That's great. I'm so glad you included that.
Well, I think it's so hard to connect, online. So I thought I would bring a little levity to the interview.
That's great. That's great. Well, right at this point, I'd like to kind of shift over to Reverend Sierra and ask her just to introduce you a little bit about St. Luke's Episcopal Church and who we are as a congregation and how we are functioning as church in light of this pandemic. So I'm going to ask her to go ahead and unmute. And are you there? Wonder if we...
Am I there?
There you go. There you go.
Councilwoman Sawyer, thank you so much for being with our community this afternoon. Our Deacon, Linda Brown, has really made a concerted effort for us as the church to get to know our community. St. Luke's has been at the corner of 13th and Quebec for 130 years. This is our anniversary year this upcoming fall. And as I hear you talk about the goals of Denver and that balance, that truly embodies who we are as St. Luke's. We are truly a church that straddles theological and political affiliations. We're truly a third regarding political affiliation of liberal, conservative, and moderate. And so each day we do church, we're balancing that identity there. If I were to describe St. Luke's, I would say that we are a loving, joyful, and inclusive community that has a very rich history. I'm the 16th rector in a history of leaders in this church. And I would say the COVID-19 pandemic has really affected our community as it has every gathering place in our society. We have suspended our in-person worship since March 14th and have been meeting and moving all of our gatherings online, on online platforms. As you can imagine, the challenge of that, where as Episcopalians, we are bodily people, tangible, we believe in the incarnation. And so to not be able to physically be together is a challenge. Yet I'm so thankful for the community as we've really have adapted and moving our formation, our worship, our gatherings to the technology that we have. And so this is a part of our formation as we learn about our community and our neighborhood. And you are a wonderful representative of who we are as part of the Montclair neighborhood. Although our community comes from all across the Denver metro area, for 130 years, we've been located at the corner of 13th and Quebec. So again, we thank you for your time here today. And I look forward to St. Luke's being a partner in how do we make our communities better. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Reverend Sierra. Appreciate your comments. And it's always good to put faces to faces, even though we're doing it virtually. Okay. So going back to our questions with the Councilwoman, I wondered if you could give us an idea, what are the challenges in District 5 that compelled you to run for office, and what kinds of services does your office provide to the community?
So great question. I think I touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, what I see is sort of this lack of balance, right? And that's really what I'm trying to bring back to the community. When I ran for office, I really ran with the mission of bringing the voice of the community back to the city and county building and back to our local government. It's a very simple mission. And, you know, I'm so grateful to have my amazing staff. You have worked with Logan and you've worked with Joanne. And we also have another staff member, Sarah, who works in our office. All of my staff members work and live in District 5. So Joanne actually has just moved out of District 5, but her son attends high school in District 5. So, and she lived there for a long time. So we're very lucky to have a very community-oriented staff who really understands our district, who knows the streets, the schools, the people, and we really are trying to live the values of transparency, accountability, good communication, and community service and customer service. And those, I think, are the single most important things that we can bring to our community to ensure that we are living that mission of bringing your voice to our local government again. And that's really our goal, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, wow, you know, the past few months have just been extraordinary. Yeah. How has COVID-19 pandemic and these anti-racism protests and all that's going on in the past few months in the city of Denver affected your priorities and that of the city council?
It's a great question, and not an easy one to answer in a short soundbite. So I will tell you that, you know, when I ran for office, I had plans, and all of those plans are out the window. You know, I'm sure that you do know, right? Because you are all living it every single day too. we all had plans. We had things we were going to do. We had goals we wanted to achieve, and those are out the window. Everything we do now is about triage. Uh-oh. Are we good? Sorry. I'm not sure if that was me. I hear an echo. Okay.
I think you're good.
Okay. Everything we do now is about triage, right? We are in an emergency. We are in an emergency the likes of which we have never seen before, literally. And what that means is that we have needs the community, in the community that are immediate and are desperate. And so those sort of those plans that we had are no longer on the table. Right now, what we've got to focus on is sort of taking a two-pronged approach to the short-term, immediate, and desperate needs of our community, and managing those and responding to those and ensuring that the things that our community members need right now are, to the best of our ability, being taken care of. And then also keeping an eye on the long-term recovery of our neighborhoods, of our city, of our economy. And that means also being thoughtful about these sort of greater ideas and thoughts about big picture things, long-term projects, and job creation and growth, small business support, things like that that we have to keep our eye on and focus on, so that we are making sure that the long term is also being taken care of at the same time. So I see a question: what are those immediate needs now? Rent, shelter, food. There are people who live in our neighborhoods who don't know where they're going to get their next meal from right now. Those kinds of immediate needs, and then also some of that long term.
And I think I saw another question pop up. I live and work in Lowry. Each day I drive home through the Lowry Sports Park. I see little or no social distancing in the shelters and on the basketball courts, and no masks. Is there anything that can be done to stop this sort of gathering in our parks?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a great question. So there is a statewide mandate from the governor that we have to wear masks indoors, in indoor public spaces, unless for some reason you have an exemption, a safety exemption or health exemption for some reason, or you're a child under the age of 3. So for indoors, you must wear a mask. Outside, there is no such law. The mayor has declined to, so the way our laws work, the city can create laws that are more restrictive than the state laws. We cannot create laws that are less restrictive than the state laws. So we could create a law that would be more restrictive. We could say, you have to wear a mask outdoors as well as indoors. So far, the mayor has declined to make that law. And I don't think that it will happen because, frankly, people enjoy being able to be outdoors and have the ability to not wear that mask. In terms of, so there is no mask law outside, and because there is no mask law outside, there is no legal mechanism to force people who are being close together outside to separate. That is why you're seeing people playing basketball outside and being close together, and there's no, that's not illegal. It's not advised. Yes. It's not something I think any of us would recommend, but it is not illegal.
Okay. I see there are other questions coming in the chat box. I'm just going to tell people, keep them coming. And then what I'd like to do is finish the questions I had for you, Councilwoman. Sure. So here's one regarding the East Area Plan. Could you give us an idea or an overview of that? I know it's this could probably go on for hours.
We could probably do like a whole meeting on the East Area Plan itself. It's a 175-page document.
Yeah, but many in our congregation just simply are unfamiliar with it. And it's just, if you could just give us a broad overview of that plan.
Sure. So the East Area Plan is the plan, it's a policy document that is meant to guide the way our community grows over the next 20 to 30 years. And when I say our community, the document covers 4 statistical neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods are South Park Hill, Hale, Montclair, and East Colfax. So when I say statistical neighborhoods, what I mean is that Denver in the 1970s started using census tracts to follow and track data, and they created what are called statistical neighborhoods. So there are 78 in the city of Denver. That does not mean neighborhoods as we know them. So for example, Mayfair is a neighborhood, right? It does not exist technically in the city and county of Denver. It is not a statistical neighborhood. The Mayfair neighborhood straddles the statistical neighborhood of Hale and the statistical neighborhood of Montclair. But it is a neighborhood in the city of Denver as we all function, but it is not a statistical neighborhood that was created in the 70s. So the East Area Plan covers those 4 statistical neighborhoods. And what it is meant to do is sort of be an overarching policy document that says, as the city grows, recognizing that it will grow over time, we want it to grow in this way. And it's a tough conversation because there are some people who say we don't want it to grow at all. And there are some people who say we want it to grow a lot. And again, when we're talking about balance, right, we're talking about let's find somewhere in the middle here, and let's, find somewhere where no one's really happy with what this looks like. That's probably the best we're going to get. And that's what we're going for. Mm-hmm. So the next community meeting on what that looks like will be, I believe, the end of September. I want to say it's going to be, I don't want to give the official date because I don't know it, but I want to say it's going to be September 20-odd, right? Somewhere 25th, 26th, somewhere around in there. I will send out a newsletter to the community as soon as I know. And anyone who's interested in more information about it can always go to denvergov.org/eastplan, denvergov.org/eastplan, and find information about the East Area Plan there. I will be honest that webpage can get incredibly overwhelming. But that is what it is. It's more important, I think, to talk about what the East Area Plan is not, right? It does not rezone every property in that area. It does not, change property values overnight. It does not take people's property rights away from them instantly or add property rights to them instantly. It does not actually do anything. It is simply a guiding document that City Council is required to then look at when a rezoning comes in. We are required to look at 5 criteria when a rezoning comes in and is considered. And one of those criteria is to look at the guiding policy documents for the area, including the neighborhood plans. And this would then become one of the legally binding neighborhood plans that we would be required to look at when considering the criteria for rezoning. That's what it is.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. And I guess as a follow-on question to that one is, how do you see the pandemic possibly affecting the city's ability to move forward with that plan?
It's a good question. We have had a lot of people say, well, we can't meet, so we can't continue with this plan. But I think, that was really back sort of in March when all of this started, before everyone kind of got used to the idea of meeting online and Zoom. And now that we have been able to get COVID numbers under control, You know, our community planning and development have been offering office hours and one-on-one meetings and briefings. Of course, I still do my office hours all the time, and I'm answering questions and meeting with community members all the time on a weekly basis as well. So we have hit the point in the plan, it's been going on for 3 years, where we are starting to hear the same feedback over and over again, the same issues, which means we are just about there. So I think, you know, is it done? No. Are we getting there? Yes. So I think, you know, when we get to this final kind of meeting space, we'll be getting to the end. My office is going to be sending a mailer, which we always send every year, to the community, where we let people know, you know, what's going on with community meeting. We're going to send a survey where we ask residents, you know, what do you think? Give us your feedback on the East Area Plan, because the East Area Plan covers parts of the community that are outside of District 5, and I would like to know what District 5 residents think of the East Area Plan, and not what residents who live to the north of Colfax think about the plan. So I'm really trying to, you know, create some information for me that is about how our specific community feels about it. So I'm trying to come up with, you know, ways to make sure that our community has a good way to engage and give their feedback as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And while you were talking, Reverend Sierra posted in the chat box the link that you mentioned about the East Area Plan.
Yep.
So thank you for that, Reverend Sierra. So I think at this point, if you're okay, Councilwoman, I'm going to go to the chat box.
Great.
We have some questions there, and let's see. Let me scroll down here. You were talking about the immediate needs in Denver in light of COVID, and what are those immediate needs now that you see?
So, yeah, great question. The two biggest immediate needs we see are support for rent and support for food.
Okay.
So what our office has been doing is working with community service providers to donate money to help them buy more food to provide out to the community. And so all of our food banks, local food banks, all of our, you know, GW High School has a food bank. All of our affordable housing providers have food banks attached to them. Several of our community and neighborhood associations have food banks attached to them, et cetera. And then we are also working, you know, I've been very actively working with a number of our neighborhood associations to, and HOST, which is our housing and stability program, to City Council has been funding at higher levels our temporary rental and utility assistance program, or it's called the TRUA program. So if there are people who need assistance with rent, and we actually just a couple of weeks ago added a temporary mortgage assistance program. So the city never had that before, but also if you qualify for the programs, which means you are at 80% of the area median income or below, then you can apply to the program and receive 6 months worth of rent assistance or mortgage assistance.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. And the next question kind of rolls into what you were just talking about. It says, wondering about folks who can't pay their rent. And you spoke about the TRUA program.
Right. Yeah.
What's the acronym for that? Just so we get that.
TRUA, TRUA. So what you can do if you or someone you know needs rent or mortgage assistance is you dial 311 and you push 6.
Okay. All right, writing that down. Okay.
Yep, 311 and push 6.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and that will get you your housing stability department.
Okay. And then another part of that question is there a newly homeless initiative on the city level?
Great question. So the answer to that is no. And the reason is because what we're trying to do is keep people in their homes by, through these supports. We were really hoping that the governor was going to continue the eviction moratorium because our community really needs it right now.
Yes.
We continue to lobby him to extend that. We are looking at some very scary numbers. There is the potential for 400,000 Coloradans to become homeless by the end of 2020.
Wow.
If it continues. And that's Coloradans, not Denverites, but yes. I don't want to sound like a doomsdayist, but those are realistic numbers, and that is incredibly scary.
Mm.
So, we could use some help. And unfortunately, that is a state level issue. The city of Denver can't do anything about that. We can ask our sheriffs to stand down when it comes to enforcing the evictions, but a moratorium has to come from the state.
Okay. So it would be good to send our messages to the governor for this.
That's right. Yes. And, but we do have to recognize a couple of different things when it comes to that as well. And number one is that our landlords are also in need of that money, right? Our landlords who own those properties also hold mortgages on those properties and need to be able to pay their mortgages. So if their rent is not, right, if their tenants are not paying, then they are unable to pay their mortgages, and that's a problem too. So the state has created a mortgage support system for landlords on that side. It's called the POP system. I don't know as much about it because it's a state level support, but it is a support for landlords, recognizing that there is also a tension there, where if we are going to allow our tenants some leeway, we also have to allow our landlords some leeway. So it's also, I just want to mention that because it's important to recognize that is also an issue that needs to, this is just, it snowballs. There is so much here. We could talk about this for hours.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for enlightening us on that. And so I'm sure this is going to be an ongoing issue for some time.
Unfortunately.
Yes. One of the questions is that has popped up a little bit different is, are there any renewed plans to expand Quebec Street, or will the budget cuts keep that on the back burner?
Great question. So the answer to that is no. Unfortunately, the budget cuts have crushed the Quebec Street project. So what the solution is going to be for Quebec is that they are going to put in the sidewalks that are missing now, and they are going to put in some traffic calming measures. You guys will be excited to hear. They are going to put in some traffic calming measures on 14th in Quebec and 13th, hopefully, in Quebec. The 13th traffic calming measures will be dependent on budget. The 14th in Quebec traffic calming measures are going to go in for sure. Those have been confirmed. Timeline on that should be by spring 2021. For completion of the installation.
Okay.
So the sidewalks are going in for sure, and the traffic calming measures, like I said, unclear on 13th, but 14th for sure in Quebec.
Okay. The other part of this question, Councilwoman says, thank you for supporting the move of homeless camps at Civic Center and Maury. Certainly homeless need some shelter and campsites, but seating prime downtown real estate is not the answer. So it's
you're welcome. This is a tough one. This is a really tough one. Because there is no right answer here. All the answers are wrong. At the end of the day, I believe that housing involves a roof. It involves a door. It is not a tent. And what we should be doing as a city is we should be investing in housing for our homeless population. we should not be talking about finding locations for them to camp, because a tent is not a home. And it is so incredibly frustrating to me that we are still having this conversation. It's just, our priorities are out of whack, and they're getting worse. And I'm speechless. I'm so deeply frustrated by what is going on. And I wish that it was a fiefdom and I was in charge so I could fix it all myself. And I wish that I could win the lottery so that I could have the funds to do it all myself. But unfortunately, the world does not work that way.
Yeah. Well, I had seen in the Denver Post that the mayor had asked city council members for campsites.
Yeah. The story behind that is that he only asked the council members who supported the outdoor camping sites to provide him with locations for the camping sites. Because I did not support the outdoor camping sites, because I believe that housing involves a roof and a door, he did not ask me to provide locations in District 5 to identify for those camping sites. Yeah. So that's why I was not asked.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, next question. You may have answered it, but I just want to be sure to cover it. When was the East Plan created, and can it be changed?
It is in process. It has been in process for 3 years, since 2017, July of 2017. It can still be changed. Please participate in the process as it is still ongoing. And like I said, I believe the next community meeting will be late September. As soon as I know, I will let you know.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let's see what else we got here.
One of my kiddos is walking over. You want to come and say hi? Are you going to soccer practice? This is Lily.
Hi.
Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Okay, I'm in a community meeting. Can you head down, please? Thank you. Yeah. Sorry.
Lovely. This question, typically in a down economy, crime rates go up. Will you keep funding up for the Denver police? Will you keep funding the funding level up for the Denver police? And we need the DPD, and it is a great asset of our city.
Yeah. So I believe the question is about the abolish the police movement, the defunding of the DPD, and all of the, issues and demonstrations that have come up this summer. Great question. I am a big believer and supporter of, First Amendment rights. I believe that the demonstrations that are going on downtown that are peaceful and appropriate are a great way for a community that has not been allowed and to voice the frustrations that they have experienced over an incredible amount of time to do that. And as long as they remain peaceful, they should absolutely keep doing that. There is a small percentage of the population that is not remaining peaceful, that is not behaving appropriately, that is trashing our city, and that's absolutely unacceptable. The police have been arresting those people, they have been ticketing those people, and they should be. And that's great. I'm also so grateful to our police. I think no one in District 5, or a very small percentage of the people in District 5, think we should be abolishing the police. I talk to both of our police commanders almost every day. We have seen a significant uptick in crime, particularly in the East Colfax neighborhood in this summer. I probably don't have the time to go into it and tell you some of the shocking and upsetting statistics. I sent a letter to the mayor and the chief of police and the director of safety 2 weeks ago on Friday, requesting more funding and help and services for our District 2 police department. I have been actively working with Excel in the East Colfax neighborhood to bring lighting and more infrastructure services to the community to help light the neighborhoods better, to try and deter crime there. The crime statistics are incredibly concerning. I do not believe we should be abolishing the police. I do not believe that we should be defunding the police. I do think that there are some things that we can do smartly. For example, there are things that are being done in the city of Denver already that we can reprioritize our funding to pay more attention to. For example, there's something called the co-responder program. So the co-responder program is where a mental health care provider goes out and sits rides shotgun with an officer and responds with an officer to every 911 call. So if it is determined that a call that an officer goes out on is a mental health call as opposed to an actual police need, the mental health care professional responds instead of the officer. There's something called the STAR program that we're just piloting right now. And it's the Caring for Denver dollars that are actually being used to fund the STAR pilot program right now. The STAR program is so far very successful. It's working out really, really well. It could be expanded across our entire community. And, we could be using safety dollars to fund that program. I will tell you that the first weekend of the demonstrations, I just saw, what is the STAR program? STAR stands for Support Team Assisted Response. So instead of any officer responding, it is 2 mental health care providers in their jeans and their t-shirts responding to a 911 call. So oftentimes when there's a mental health call, due to a number of different factors, a person responds better to a healthcare provider instead of an officer. Lots of times, even just a badge is triggering to them, or a uniform is triggering to them in some way. I could, again, talk about this for hours. So just having 2 mental health care providers in a van show up with, in their jeans and t-shirts, they get a better response. And they can help better. But that program is funded by Caring for Denver dollars. So we could use the safety dollars to pay for that program, and that would make sense. That would be a thoughtful way for us to expand that program and use Denver taxpayer dollars to make our community safer in a better way. So when we may say defund the police, that is a way we could defund the police in a thoughtful way and actually take some of the responsibilities that the police don't want on their plate and are not trained for properly, to, actually use those tax dollars in a better, more thoughtful way that would make our community safer. Yeah. So, there are conversations to be had here. I will tell you, the first weekend of the demonstrations downtown, the police spent $348,000 on munitions and tear gas. That is more than my office spends in a year on staff, benefits, and everything we do in District 5. Mm-hmm. So that's upsetting. Again, when we have a conversation about balance here, that's something to think about and keep in mind. So again, I could talk about this stuff for hours, you guys. You have to stop me. Tell me to stop talking and move on. Hopefully that gave you a lot of information and a big picture of kind of what it is that I'm doing downtown, what I'm thinking about, what I'm looking at, and why I'm making the decisions that I'm making.
That is so, we're so appreciative of your explanation, Councilwoman. It's good to know what the thinking is for our representative on City Council, and of ways that we can provide input to your office. I think are really important, and this at a critical time that we're in. I just want to speak to the fact that St. Luke's had a break-in back in April, and the police, the Denver police, were wonderful in terms of being right there and helping us with the crime scene and all that goes along with that. So just want to express our appreciation for their support when we needed them.
Right.
To be there.
They're so great. Yes. Yeah. And so responsive, especially our community resource officers. We are very lucky.
Yes. Yes, you have some amazing ones that I have met, and so would love to get them on this this conversation sometime, you know,
Yeah,
with
for
our,
sure.
who is
That's
our
a great
neighbor.
idea.
Yeah. So the question, one of the questions is the federal government counting on the city to provide solutions to COVID, rent, and food challenges?
Yes. Yes, is the short answer, and it's extremely upsetting. We are being left to our own devices. We are the first line of defense and the first line of response. And in many ways, that's as it should be. But then we've got to have the dollars flowing to the municipalities from the federal government to shore us up. And that is not coming through the CARES package, particularly in this third tranche, and that's extremely concerning.
Okay, thank you. This kind of pertains, this question, the person who asked about the STAR program, and do we have sufficient resources for mental health? And how much has the city revenues been impacted by COVID? So there's a couple questions right there.
Yeah, two questions there. So the first one, do we have sufficient resources for mental health? Yes and no is the short answer. Never an easy answer on that one. We will never have enough resources for mental health support. It is a pandemic of its own in our country. It is just something that is hidden and people are not talking about it. And it's incredibly sad, incredibly unfortunate. That said, the Caring for Denver initiative that passed in November of 2018, has changed the conversation dramatically. It was, I don't know if you remember, it was a sales tax that will take a portion of every $10 that are sold and dedicate that towards mental health supports. And it has allowed the city and county of Denver to dedicate funding towards mental health support in a way that the vast majority of other cities don't have. And it has allowed us to change the conversation in a way that most other cities aren't able to. It's a big deal. Yeah. It's a really big deal. And it is something we should be incredibly proud of.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay. I'm just trying to see. We got that. I think Joyanne
can tell us about. She sits on the STAR program committee. It's really, yes. I mean, Joyanne could probably tell us more about it than anyone. It's a big deal. Let's see, how much has the city revenues been impacted by COVID? This is a great question too. So the city right now is short $242 million. So when I spoke to you a little bit earlier, yes, I know, I just saw Jeannie sit back like, woo! Yes, it's a lot. So when I spoke a little bit earlier about how we have immediate needs, and then I'm also balancing that with long-term needs and economic recovery and how we manage that, it's a real conversation. So in 2008, the city was able to recover from that economic downturn better than a lot of other cities because of some bond funding and some infrastructure projects that were put in place. So we are using the same model now to do some similar things, which is great because it allows us to, for example, go a little bit further and go a little bit faster with some projects with the Elevate Denver bond money that we had approved the voters had approved in 2017. So you'll start to see some of those projects roll out a little bit faster. You'll start to see some projects at the airport getting done a little bit faster, although, we all saw the front page of the Denver Post today, but that is actually not funded by that same money. So that's a different conversation. So, you know, there are a lot of infrastructure projects that are being funded through other sources besides the general fund that we're focusing on getting up and running, because those projects will bring jobs, they will bring property taxes, they will bring revenue, and that will help stabilize our economy. So that's the long-term economic recovery plan. And then at the same time, we're looking at these sort of immediate economic recovery discussions around, you know, what can we do around rent, small business support, food, those kinds of immediate things as well.
Great, great, thank you. Well, here's a comment. It says, Amanda, I assume you are aware that the Lowry Foundation has a program called Keep Lowry Strong.
Yes, our office donated.
Good.
Yep.
We are providing funds for up to $500 per household to assist with needs associated with COVID-19 hardships. I hope if you get requests to aid for our households in Lowry that you will point them in our direction.
Yes, we donated to it, and we have been pointing people in your direction. And thank you so much. You have been, I want to say you have raised over $15,000 already and donated to more than, I want to say something like 750 households, but I might be selling you short. So I don't want to even say that because I think I'm selling you short. You've done an amazing job. Thank you so much for what you've done in the community, because it's been fantastic. So we're really grateful for everything you have done as well. And we have wonderful community partners.
Yeah, the comment came from Kathy Long, and I know she's on this this call. So yes, so thank you, Kathy, for all that is being done at Lowry.
Truly.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's it for the questions on the chat box. Gosh, thank you, everybody. And why don't we go back to, I'm going to go back to our gallery view just for a moment here. And I think we may have time for maybe, Councilwoman, for maybe 1 or 2 questions, if that. Okay, so we could go back to gallery view, Reverend Sierra, and then we have a closing slide, and so okay. All right, I just was wondering if anybody had any questions that they, yes, I see Loretta has a question.
I was wondering, does Denver work with the tiny home villages? And is anything being done to create more of those? Because it seems like that's economically a good choice, and you want a roof and a door.
That's right. Great question. So last summer, right after, last September, right after we, the new council was seated, we approved the temporary tiny home villages text amendment to our zoning code. And the reason it's the temporary tiny home villages text amendment is because in order to be permanent, there are things that are required, like sewage and electric lines and some things like that, that are not required when they're temporary. So that is why it's temporary. It's a workaround. The first beloved tiny homes village was built up in GES last fall and was moved into this spring. And then the second one is under construction right now. Yes, and it's great. So the biggest issue we have is availability of land. It is the willingness of the neighbors to bring it to their community.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anybody else? Just, we have, I think, time for 1 quick question, and then we'll put our closing slide up. Okay. So Reverend Sierra, why don't you go ahead and put up that closing slide. One of the questions that I had is, what are some of the ways that St. Luke's Church or its members could provide input to your office? And so Joyanne gave me a slide, gave me information about your office. And so if you want to, Reverend Sierra, can you put that slide up? The contact information?
It should be up. I've shared the screen. Do you not see it?
Let's see.
It
I
should
see
be
it.
on the screen.
I see it. Okay.
That's it.
There it is. So, and there's also, this is the mental health town hall. Do you want to speak about that, Councilwoman?
So one of the things that I have tried to do while I've been in office is to reach out to all of the other elected officials in our district, because I think it's really important. You know, we don't legislate in a vacuum. And so I think it's really important that we work together to make sure that we are providing the best representation we can for you as our constituents. So every Tuesday morning, every elected official south of Colfax and east of Broadway gets together. It's all council members and state reps, RTD reps, school board reps, everyone gets together just on a call to share what, you know, here's what I'm up to, here's legislation I'm working on, here are things I'm concerned about, to ask questions about what's going on with each other's work, and to just connect with each other about what is happening, you know, in each other's silos. And what we decided to do was to try every other week, and this summer it's once a month, to try and connect with each other and the community to hold a town hall. So right now it's once a month, but I think we'll probably try and go back to every other week. And so Thursday, August 22nd will be our next town hall. Like I said, it's every elected official south of Colfax and east of Broadway. And we are going to partner with Mental Health Center of Denver and talk about kind of how difficult COVID has been for the community. I think a lot of people are feeling really angry right now, really frustrated, really bored. I have definitely seen in our office an uptick in just sort of like the tone, the nasty emails. And it's just, there is, I think, a level of frustration in our community. And I think some of that is coming from just wanting to be in a different place than we're in right now and feeling powerless to be in a different place than we're in right now. And so we have invited Mental Health Center of Denver to come and be the speaker on our town hall with the elected officials, and it's Thursday the 22nd. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. If you don't want to sign in on the Zoom, that's fine. We also stream it to our Facebook, and you know, most people watch it. We usually have about 500 attendees who watch and sign in, and it's just a good way to sort of connect as a community and learn something. Past speakers have been Susana Cordova, the DPS superintendent. We have had Happy Haynes, the director of Parks and Rec. We have had the head of Denver Health to talk about COVID resources and information. We have had a bunch of different people on to speak. So hopefully, you know, you'll be able to join us.
Thank you for offering that. And then, so there's the information, and there was a question, are we recording this meeting so that people can get this information? Yes, we are recording this, and it will be posted on YouTube through the church, I believe, St. Luke's Church. We will have that link up there, so you can also watch this again.
And I'm happy to share it. I'll share it on my Facebook page as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Okay. I wanted to just let you know that in working over the past week or so with your staff, that I have learned a lot about your office. And I'm very grateful for all the support and the fact that people can contact your office for just about anything pertaining to what's going on, the police, sanitation, COVID, whatever. And so, and your staff are very responsive. So I would just suggest to people, if you've got questions, what's going on in the city and in your district, to call the councilwoman's office and people will respond to that, or you can email her. Well, we're right at about 4:30. Again, be respectful of your time, Councilwoman. I just want to tell you how grateful we are for your time and for your staff's time in setting up this meeting. And we look forward to having ongoing conversations with you in the future. I want to make sure we get your newsletter and whatever information so we can get that out to our community. So.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I want to just let you know how grateful I am for you, because, you know, you are the reason I am here. I am truly, you know, I am so lucky for my staff. I'm so grateful to them for all of the work that they do. And I am only here to be your voice and to represent you guys. So please don't hesitate to reach out for anything. And thank you for all of that you do in our community.